Hello, everybody. Welcome to another legendary episode of Strip the Dip Live. You're back with your very animated and very cool and collected co-host AMG Dent, aka the original smooth operator. I'll take that one from Carlos Sainz. And what can I say? We're so happy to have another amazing guest on the show today. He's part of our kind of Stripping the Dipping family here because he's a fountain of knowledge. He's a very ambitious individual as well, and he's got very good insights into the world of motor racing and the engineering side of it as well. So we're super happy. And of course, as well, if you guys are here, make sure that you hit the like button. It's interactive stream, so you're free to ask our guest any questions, of course, as well. Say hi, put your comments in the chat, and support the stream as you do. And I'm very, very honored to have a good friend of mine here. I'm always quite happy when I get to catch up with him. It's the one and only. It's the Davide De Russis. Davide, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, all good, all good. It's nice to be back, and this time video, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, something different for the people, Davide. It was needed. It was very needed, because a lot of the the followers that we have, they said they really enjoyed your episodes, just the insight you were able to kind of give behind the scenes with the strategy, the engineering. It's so kind of key, and very kind of informational for a lot of our fans. So we're super excited to have you back on as always. And yeah, before we get things like on the road, Davide, we need to catch up, man. I mean, we're talking kind of backstage, and having some chit chat. But generally, how's life been, since we last caught up with you? Now you're with like 2 GT3 teams. Your business, which I'd love you to talk about as well, A Couple Racing Limited, is making further progression. And man, you've been having, I literally said you're having a better summer break than most of the F1 drivers. You've been in Tenerife, now you're back in Italy. Give our listeners this kind of an insight into the world with Davide.
Yeah, but let's say that until June it was crazy because doing British GT testing, because testing for my team was starting in the beginning of January, and then we tested it through the year. So we're still planning testing for the rest of the year. So testing while the championship are starting is a lot. And then the GT World Challenge started as well. So I had some months like April, May, especially, that I've been like 2 days home. So being able to have a month summer break now in August is good. Not just for relax or for holiday, but because you need it, sometimes just to have something different from work, even if you love the work, the job and everything. For the rest, I mean, as I said, there's 2 teams, GT World Challenge, one of the most competitive GT3 championship, Silver Cup, going good, not the best, but new team, new championship, new everything. So makes sense. And with the British GT, we were struggling a bit with the Mclaren, with the new Evo kit. So we are not the best again, but we are getting there. Slowly, we are getting there.
Slowly and surely, yeah. Well, this is the thing, it's interesting seeing as a spectator and a fan like myself. I love the insight. I love the Instagram page that you have as well for both yourself and actually, Couple Racing, which I'll get you to explain in a bit as well to any listeners here. But yeah, it's a very interesting kind of time. We've even got a dedicated segment of this show just for the GT3 stuff because we've got quite a few listeners that are quite interested, whether it's the GT World Challenge or so just generally just the British GT, which is quite niche. I think we're back at Brands Hatch very soon as well. So that's going to be...
That's next event for me. Beginning of September, I think is 7 to 10 or something like that.
Exactly, and to be fair, the BOP seems quite level out with the British GT. Yeah. I know that McLaren have like the new body kit, which we'll talk about as well for the Evo version of the car, but it's amazing. I could imagine. It looks like one of those cars where it's like a Diva and it has like a particular setup window it probably prefers, but like as we'll discuss later on, it'll be really interesting just to hear the kind of challenges and what's been involved in trying to get the car more up at the top of the order. But whilst we talk about that as well, Davide, I'd be remiss. I really love the work you do with this business you set up. Tell our listeners a bit more about A Couple Racing Limited. You are the director of it. You saw the vision. Could you explain it for our listeners?
Yeah, of course. A Couple Racing is born in 2020 during COVID period. Because to be honest, I lost the job I had in M Sport because of the pandemic, so I needed to do something. sim racing was getting more important and more important. So I got some small Italian teams that asked me to give support, engineering support, and the interest was very big, really big. So I said, I can set up a company out of this and try to see if it can be a job. And it is a job now. So it started like a sim racing only. Then just after the pandemic, when the GT4 Germany started, I got a job with a actual motorsport team. And then going from there, I always try to put together the same methodology between what you do as a race engineer or a performance engineer in real motorsport with sim racing. So it means that, is a software is, let's say, a game, even if it's a big name. The simulation is a bit more than a game. So, there are different ways to interact with the software than what you do with a real car. But at the end of the story, the methodology could be the same. And it's all about to find the gray area, how to perform better, how to find the spots you can use to get better and stuff like that. With the software and the sim racing is maybe, that's a particular camber that is crazy to do in a real world, maybe. Sometimes it's working for that particular car because the mathematical model is working like that. So you use it. At the same time, you do stuff like that in physics, more physics, let's say, for the real cars, for the real racing cars. So that's all the base, starting in GT4, a couple of years there, then WEC, ELMS, Asia Le Mans, 24 Hour Dubai, and this year British GT and GT World Challenge.
This is incredible, Davide. And like we discussed it on previous episodes, but I reiterate this how much of an inspirational story that is for a lot of people, because during the pandemic, like you mentioned, people were losing jobs left, right, and center. People were finding it hard to be optimistic and to, seize opportunities. And for yourself, you've taken like a passion, which, you clearly love. You've got the qualifications for it. And then you've combined that into further opportunities, taking kind of the world of sim racing and taking the knowledge, the experience, the kind of learnings from that into some of one of the biggest series, even with like the World Endurance Championship. It's a huge competitive like series. I think people underestimate, that is another FIA homologated series, and the amount of competition, from the manufacturers, from even the privateer teams is huge. And, I like boasting this and saying this to my friends. I'm like, you know what? One of my best friends, Davide, he is a race-winning engineer of Le Mans. And no one can tell me anything otherwise, because that's legendary, So it's amazing.
It's been great, yes. Still one of the best results I've got. So it's something different. It's not just because you win, it's because it's Le Mans, and everything is about Le Mans at the end of the story, in endurance racing at least. So...
Exactly this. Well, this is the magic, and again, just to imagine kind of starting off and then to where you are today and to take those expertise, which, a lot of the teams are looking for now, I think is amazing, Davide. So, we'll definitely cover that a lot more. Other topics we're going to get into today whilst we do a topic rundown. Of course, for our F1 fans, we'd be remiss if we didn't do a kind of mid-season review of the F1 season so far. Obviously, Red Bull are in like a completely different postcode, but then in Formula B, as I like to call it, the other teams are kind of almost like, jumping on top of each other at very track-dependent races. Also, a lot of people talking about Alex Palou and this crazy story between Zach Brown and one of the drivers in IndyCar, because McLaren have their hands not only in F1 but also in IndyCar, and obviously they produce the GT3 cars, so that's a bit crazy. For all of our beloved Ferrari fans, Forza Ferrari, the Tifosi,
that's tricky.
it's kind of half and half, isn't it? Because on the Formula One side, it's a bit meh, but then on the other series, Ferrari are doing phenomenally to win the Nürburgring 24 hours with a completely new GT3 car, to win Le Mans, with a completely new hypercar, and to take the crown away from Toyota. I was like, wow, this is really good, for the country, and I think from the sporting aspect. So there's that. We've got a bit of sim racing talk for all of my sim racing friends as well. I want to check this out. Lots of different talk about, different models, because iRacing's due a huge facelift with rain coming. We've got a new competitor to the market as well in Rennsport. There's been a bit of backlash regarding the virtual Le Mans. So we have Davide, which also is one of the leading engineers for the Williams esports team, which can give us insight into that. That's going to be amazing. And, we've got so many other topics as well. LMDH revivals, GT3, and just some goals and visions as well, and insight onto the pit wall as well. So, Davide, we'll go back a few steps then to the F1 season. What have you made of it so far in terms of the kind of storyline we've been given? Red Bull have come again. Adrian Newey, jokingly, he was, I think, at a special dinner with a few folks. I think the
it was Zach Brown and other
Zach Brown. It was
I saw the
swapping
picture,
the hats. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair enough.
Yeah, true. It'd be interesting though to see Adrian Newey go back to McLaren because he was there in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But either way, this is some light-hearted fun between them two. And also as well, Davide, I'll do it this way. Like, out of the 5 teams in the top 5, so let's say Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, and Aston Martin, we'll go through each team. What's kind of stood out to you most about their progression this season? And let's say we're back in school and you had to give them a report card, because it's summer, people have just got their GCSEs, A-levels, etc. What would you grade these teams based on their performance? A-star being like a Cambridge, alumni like you, to like a F, which, is just like not good. So let's start kind of back to front. Let's go with McLaren, for example, then. So,
well, McLaren deserves an high grade, I think. They're recovering quite well. They didn't start the season properly. Now they're back competitive. Oscar Piastri is performing. So I think at least a B at the moment, currently, especially because of the last few races. They are performing very good. They modify the car. They develop the car properly. They outperformed other cars that were better at the beginning, like Aston Martin, like Ferrari. So I think at least a B, not an A, because for the A, I think everybody knows at the moment who is the only team getting an A. So B.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I agree definitely with your grading there. F1 Black agrees as well. Professor Davide giving out the grades, of course. But I'd have to agree with you, and I'd implore again, if you're listening, put down your grades for the teams as we go by them. But with McLaren, didn't start the season so strong. I think they're still having some issues understanding the car. They're in that kind of weird phase where they've got a new wind tunnel that will come online, I think, next year or at the end of this year. So they're trying to make the most of what they can do.
That will be important because aerodynamics is the most performing part of the car at the moment. So if you make it right, especially the underfloor and everything, is the key.
Yeah, there's going to be so many gains in that. And, like you mentioned as well there, Davide, like for them to extract the performance as the years gone by and to add these like small incremental upgrades, it's convincingly got them up there because they started looking decent from Austria. They're able to replicate the same thing in Silverstone, which is a completely different circuit. Then again, the same thing again in Hungary, which is a completely different circuit, more low speed, but high downforce emphasis. So, the sky really is the limit for them. And also, as you mentioned, Oscar Piastri, Jesus, what a talent for the future. Yeah. Superstar. So,
consider how he started at the beginning of the year with all the Alpine problems and everything. I'm surprised. I'm really happy for him, to be honest. It's a good choice.
True. He's definitely making it pay off now, and I absolutely agree with you. So, okay, that's McLaren. Let's go into another team that begin with M. Mercedes, Mercedes, as my girlfriend likes to call them. Completely different concept. They decided to stick with their guns at the beginning of the year and go with this very minimized side pod design, very different suspension, different way of energizing the floor. They saw that maybe they maximized the roof of potential with that philosophy. So now they've gone in a completely different direction, new side pod, new floor, new suspension geometry. And also just even in terms of management, Total Wolff's actually taken James Allison off the shop floor and put him back kind of in the factory, probably where he belongs, on the technical side. So, thoughts on this and just generally ups and downs for them. What do you think? And what would you grade them?
It's difficult because they are not doing bad. You can't say they're doing bad, but with the resources they've got, the experience they've got, they should be much better. They should be much more close to the Red Bull, and they don't at all. So they don't compete. I mean, Red Bull is another series, basically. It's Formula 1-1, let's say. And then there is the others. I would say C, no more than that. They need to do better. with their experience and their resources. They can't be similar to a McLaren that just went out this year in the last few races. They deserve more.
Yeah, I agree. That's fair. And, like considering McLaren's actually the customer of Mercedes, they're the one taking the engine supply and stuff like that. And even at certain tracks like Silverstone, Lewis not being able to overtake Lando Norris, even on soft tires. Granted, they were used soft tires. It goes to show you that McLaren have got it.
I mean, we've got a 7-time world champion against a young guy, fast guy, super fun guy. I love Norris at all. But you can't struggle like that with a team that a couple of years ago were nowhere.
That's true.
Definitely. While you were winning championships.
Exactly. They were dominating back in the day, Davide, and now that's how the cookies crumble.
So
True, it's true, and that's the thing. They've got a lot of homework to do, but at the same time, they're very energized and they've still got quite a few experienced people. So
and they will go there. I'm pretty sure they've got the people, they got the money, they got the budget, they got the experience, the possibilities. So maybe not this year, but I'm expecting in the next few years to come back to a level where they actually fight the Red Bull.
Absolutely. So the next one then, the green team, the Green Goblins as such, the Aston Martin F1 team. Kind of what are your thoughts on them? Because they've had a really strange season. Stroll almost didn't start the season with the injury to his hand in a cycling incident, but then managed to make it to the start of the race and completely had George Russell in his back pocket. Fernando Alonso is re-energized. He looks like the Fernando Alonso back in 2006, 2007, when he was giving my guy Michael Schumacher lots to think about, So again, like at the early stage of the season, people were really looking at Aston Martin and people were looking at a few personnel that had moved from Red Bull, like Dan Fallows, all the way to Red Bull. And then recently, they just seemed to kind of almost plateau in terms of the performance. Fernando Alonso kind of sometimes on the brink of the top 6, which was different to what we saw. And then I think also their team principal, Mike Crack, excuse his last name, had come out and basically said that, they had done some upgrades to the car and the simulations that they had run in the factory didn't correlate with the performance of the car in real life. So is that a step backwards for them kind of coming into the second half of the season there, Davide? What would you grade them? And what overall would be a success for Aston Martin, considering they've never fought for a championship or had so much podiums consistently over the last couple of years?
Well, can I give them 2 grades?
Okay.
Because the beginning of the season, they deserve like a B++, almost A, to be honest, because it was the surprise. From literally nowhere, a very bad car with no performance at all, Vettel that were struggling like never. From now coming into the championship and be the second fastest straight away. So they actually had a great car that worked in every condition with good drivers, especially Alonso, that could use the car. I'm not a fan of Alonso, never been, but he is a good driver. So as soon as you got all the package, he can deliver. I think they never had a car to win a race, but it was much, much better than the previous years. So you need to give them credit for that, absolutely. But they didn't develop the car, basically. And in 23, 22 races per year and 24 next year, if everything is confirmed, you can't afford not to develop a car, to be honest. So you saw exactly what happened. They started in a very good shape. They came into this spring that were kind of okay. And then from there, it's just downhill. So at the moment, D. Because you can't start super cool fighting and everything and then finish like mid-championship into, 7th, 8th position every time. It's too much.
True. They have to try and find that performance as well. I agree, and it's almost bizarre just how much it changed, but it shows you just week by week these teams are not stopping on their laurels. They're continuing to bring new parts, and it's as much as it's a race at the circuit, it's almost a development race at the factory, and trying to get the correlation, the balance right, pushing the car in the right direction is so key. And one criticism of people with Aston Martin is that rather than kind of trying to like revolutionize their own design, their own philosophy, their own car. They've tried to kind of take inspiration from a separate car, which is good. It's good that people can inspire, but then to a degree, what level can they maximize that car at as well? I think it's a big question.
They are consistent, but they should be consistent as they started, at least not getting worse every time. So, I mean, it's a kind of a new team, new car, new concept. So it's fair enough, but you need to be better. It's Formula One. You should be at the highest level of single seaters at least. So you can't afford to have this big change between the beginning and mid-season. So let's see what they do for the next race season. But I don't think they really going to improve so much. It's too late now, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really tough one. And, you know, with the kind of rolling time they get in the wind tunnel, all these other factors too, you might see the other teams kind of on the bottom of the midfield coming up, or you might see the gap with the front runners becoming even more bigger. So that would be an interesting one to see. And on topic of, you know, prancing away of such, you know, Ferrari, Frederick Vasseur as well here, finally, you know. We had kind of a big kind of Ferrari episode kind of towards the end of last season, you know, which was a spicy one. But yeah, it's an interesting one with them, Davide, because they've got a car which actually seems quite competitive in qualifying. On one lap pace, Charles Leclerc can do magic with that car. But then in terms of its long-term pace in a race, whether it's strategy, whether it's tire wear, whether it's just track dependent, yeah, Carlos Sainz talking about it quite a lot, how in certain places he feels that the car is quite strong, and in other places that package doesn't quite work. You know, how would you grade them? Where do you see them kind of in, like, the, I guess, top tier of the Formula B race as such? And, you know, like, what do you think the team principal's attention is going to turn towards, you know, in terms of improving Ferrari, strengthening them, and making sure they exceed? Because we'll get onto Ferrari later, but there must be pressure if the hypercar team, the GT3 team are getting all these accolades, and it's only the F1 team now which isn't consistently challenging.
And which is the only one that actually is managed by Ferrari.
Wow.
So that's kind of a problem. I mean, the grade for them is not high at all, because they are doing bad compared to last year, without looking to Schumacher or Raikkonen here. As compared with last year, they're doing bad. They were basically fighting the Red Bull almost last year. Maybe not 100%, but for sure much, much closer. And this car should have been just the improvement, the development of that car, and it's not. It's never been. So it looks a strong car. It looks always good, always we can do more, we can develop there, we know what we're doing. But at the end of the story, it doesn't look like that anymore. So I think the situation in there is, as I said last year, if you remember, Vasseur is a great guy, but he's not with the right experience to be in that particular team. It's very difficult to be the team principal of Ferrari for a lot of reasons. And he's never been in a top team before, so I don't think he was ready. And that's point number one. For the rest, again, strategy. If you want to call it strategy sometimes, because it's pretty weird. And it's not the first time. Last year was the same. The year before was the same. So it's not, they're changing people, but still same result. So for them, I want to be honest, but at the same time, not getting hate for all the Italians. So I would say D. They must do much, much more, and it's about time, because it's been since 10 years, 13 years, they're not actually performing properly. If you remove the 2-3 years of Vettel, 2018, 2019, but they didn't win too much anyway. About the rest, it's just always the same story. They have a good car, they have a super good feedback from simulation, from test, from design. Then they go racing and they're nowhere. That's not how Ferrari is supposed to be. So I would say D for them as well.
I think that's an honest assessment.
The good point are the drivers, to be honest. They're the only two that try to do something with the car.
Well, this is the thing, you know, and in a way, it's nice at least, you know, Charles isn't getting too disheartened with it, and Carlos as well seems to try and find performance where they can, because that's the thing. Like, whilst we know that they're not going to challenge for the championship this year, it only takes one race win or one very strong result to just get everybody energized and to put the effort in and to start looking into things more deeply. But when you've got a consistent row of just mediocre results, or you've got a car and then it performs well at one track and it doesn't perform well at another, it can create more confusion, I feel. And that's just kind of the overwhelming feeling.
And also, if you have an opportunity, let's say you are fighting for a victory because, I don't know, Red Bull is retiring or whatever, and then you don't make their strategy right, you lose an opportunity, you don't have another one, probably. So I don't see the team with kind of idea and strength in terms of what to do in similar situations. So it's not just the car, it's not about the strategy. As I said every time, it's all the package. You need to have the car, the drivers, the engineers, the mechanics, the strategy, and so on.
All in harmony, and speaking about harmonies and music, there's an Austrian national anthem I hear every weekend. There's a Dutch national anthem I hear every weekend.
Yes, it's getting boring.
Just the dominance is dominating, and it is that team. It's Red Bull Racing with this RB19, Max Verstappen. Like, they've won every single race of the season. Like, Davide, do you think that they can be stopped? Is it possible that they could go on an unbeaten run for the entire season and that nobody will challenge them?
I see a lot of records going away this year from them because they are not doing any mistakes. If you have to find a problem in the team at the moment, is Perez.
Yeah,
he's not in the best shape at all compared with what the rest of the team is doing. At least he's not doing bad, but qualifying, it looks like he's not having a Red Bull sometimes, not every time, but sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
For the rest, Verstappen is just, it's his car, it's built for him, you can see it, and he's doing whatever he wants with ease. Looks like 2002, 2004 Schumacher. They just do stuff. They win every time anyway, so.
True. Yeah.
It's full A plus maybe as well.
It's fair, even me with my Mercedes, I have to just give them the plaudits, because to be fair, they've just come out of the box, no nonsense, no mistakes. Literally, they've just gone there with, their serious face on, and just to see how ruthless they are, especially Max, especially Christian, especially Giampiero Lambiase, the team kind of like, thing for Max alone. They really want to win at all costs, and it just, to me, I have to admire, the mentality, the kind of drive, the fact that they're not kind of like becoming redundant or complacent in their trials and kind of triumphs as such, and let's actually talk about the Sergio Perez thing, Davide, because I think that's a huge talking point. This guy, I've always actually liked Perez as kind of an underdog driver and someone that, could take a car that's not really competitive and he could do stuff with the tire or the strategy, to bring a car up the pecking order. But, like in this day and age, if you need to beat Max, you need to be on the front row at all costs. And when he's not doing that, and then we've seen how ruthless they are just with the sister team, AlphaTauri, and Nick De Vries getting fired, essentially. What do you think will be the future?
Ricciardo there.
Well, the honey badgers returned, and this is the thing, if they were to take Sergio Perez out and put Ricciardo in, would you agree with that decision? Because it's very balanced. Some people just love Daniel Ricciardo, and no matter what, they just want to see him in a Red Bull. Some people, they're more skeptical because they say, Ricciardo had his opportunity. He was effectively the leader of the team when Sebastian Vettel walked away to Ferrari, and then when Max came in, rather than standing his ground in the team, he then went to Renault. He then messed around with them and then went to McLaren. Then that failed, and then so some people are saying that he's quite lucky in a sense to come back. And in his return, to be fair, he's been on the pace, but Yuki's not actually been that bad and actually scored the team's points, I think, in the last race in Spa too. So who in your mind, should get that drive? Should Perez be removed out of the equation?
that's 50-50 because I like both drivers. I think Perez is getting old at the moment, but also Ricciardo is not the last of the youngest, let's say.
True.
So I would say today, I will switch to Ricciardo. He's probably getting lucky to have the seat back, but at the moment he's deserving better than Perez.
True.
In terms of team, I don't think they're going to change it, not this year at least, because you need a proper second driver, a driver that if Verstappen can't perform or has a technical issue or whatever, can win the race. And I'm not sure if someone different from Perez can do that today. So for sure, for stability, they are winning the championship, they're dominating everything. I don't really think there will be a change this year. But the fact that they replace De Vries with Ricciardo means something. They don't do stuff just because.
Like that. True.
They always have a reason. So probably they are evaluating something like that. Maybe for next year or in 2 years' time, I don't know. Because with the proper contract, with the proper position in the team, Ricciardo can be a good second driver. Younger than Perez and still performing without any problem with Verstappen performance match or similar stuff. What happened at the time, as you said, he was the leader of the team. Then this young guy came very fast, very bit arrogant, if you want, and just everything went away. He couldn't defend the position, but let's be honest, he has no talent compared with Verstappen. So he could be a good driver. He could be one guy that win races with a good car, with a good team. I like him a lot. Maybe more than Verstappen, to be honest.
Yeah.
But this is about sport, and if you are a faster driver and he's younger and he's outperforming every time, every race, every weekend, that's the only, the only end.
Thing that matters.
So if you don't want to be a second driver, you need to leave and left, and you made probably a bad choice at the time.
True. I agree.
It would be better to be second driver there, winning a lot.
Well, this is the thing.
Changing team every year.
True. Exactly. He was changing his phone numbers like Zach Brown in a lawsuit. But, this is one of those things where, life can be a really funny thing in the sense that he walked away and now he's ended up coming essentially back to the same family, same position.
Probably to accept a second driver position as well, as he was at the beginning.
True.
But it's always easy after, when you need to take a decision today, you don't know exactly if you're doing well or not. So everybody's easy to say, okay, I shouldn't be stay there. Yeah, of course, after.
True. Well, this is the thing, hindsight can give us these views as well. And it's interesting, like you mentioned as well, I agree with all the points you made. I think for now, Red Bull have the stability, whilst none of the other kind of teams in the top 5 are really challenging them. Perez does a solid enough job. But if Ferrari, if Mercedes, if McLaren come knocking and the gap closes, I could see that pressure being put on them to make a decision on Perez. So I think that's fair. Blag also coming in the comments as well. What's up, F1 Blag? He said A for Red Bull. I think that's fair. Mercedes.
Yeah, he removed the plus because of Perez.
That's fair. Mercedes with the C minus, again, quite close to what you said as well, Davide. Trey saying at all costs, or there's another allegation. I guess we'll review at the end of the season with another cost cap breach kind of saga. I don't know what's gonna happen again. You got RVD in here. RVD, what's going on? Thank you so much for joining. I can't decide if Perez is lucky to be at Red Bull.
Yeah, it's true.
If Red Bull are lucky to have Perez after the way they treat him. No? This is also a thing.
Red Bull is not... it's usual to treat people. You are the best until you win, and then you're nowhere.
They've got the chips.
Gasly.
They've got... Nick De Vries. It's like a factory.
Same Ricciardo at the time.
True.
The Russian guy as well. What was the name? Kvyat as well.
It started off with him.
And I think he was the first one at the time. So
the torpedo. Oh man, that was a throwback. I remember those.
Yeah.
Oh man. F1 Black saying as long as Red Bull has a massive pace advantage, they don't need an amazing second driver. Yeah, kind of echoes the points we've mentioned.
That's kind of why they don't need to change Perez this year. True, absolutely. And speaking of the Red Bull driver,
I knew Blag was going to dig this up because one of my favorite junior drivers at the moment is this guy. Davide, did you see this crash in the Japanese
didn't see the
Formula?
crash. I heard about the crash, but I didn't see it. So I can't really
Oh,
comment.
man. Oh man, just it's one of those ones where you say, well, thank you for the halo, because it was crazy to see two cars flying in the air. But yeah, just long story short, Liam Lawson had a really good start. He's trying to go around the outside with somebody on the circuit. He was on the curb. And we have this debate about sausage curbs every single year, whether sausage curbs are dangerous or too high for Formula racing, because he essentially kind of bottomed out on it. And
too high for a bit of everything last year. Monza wreck.
Yeah,
because of that at the end. So
well,
they're right, but I get why they have it. Because if you are a racing driver, you tell them, okay, there is no wall, there is no nothing, that's a chicane, everybody will cut.
Well, exactly. Everybody's
100%.
trying to take advantage of the track limits, So he was just a bit ambitious and then basically caused a huge pileup. So I don't think Dr. Helmut Marko is going to be too impressed with that Blag. I don't think he'll look on that too funnily. But having said that, he's still a young driver. And to be fair, if I look at F2 at the moment, there's no Oscar Piastri or like a Felipe Drogovic, which is like dominating the championship. This year it seems a bit more kind of leveled out with the youngsters. So interesting
Which
to
is
see.
not bad, because it means you maybe don't have a super champion, but you may end up to have a Formula One that is actually competitive.
Exactly.
Especially if the car looks the same and the drivers are all on the same level. You may don't have an Hamilton or a Verstappen, but for the show, for the people, it's maybe better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the thing as well, it's always exciting to see new drivers, new names come into the sport as well. Troy actually mentioned earlier whilst we were talking about the F1 catch-up, just, the Vegas GP is completely new. There's no kind of day off for any of the teams to go off. So the work you do, Davide, kind of relates to this, like running simulations and almost like having some sort of foundational knowledge to work from and then take that to the circuit too. That could be a wild card race. But to be fair, I mean, again, I'm only saying it from playing F1 23. There's like 3 long straights, and I imagine just with the advantage the Red Bull has with the DRS, it will annihilate every single car there. But
that's an easy call, to be honest.
But again, we'll just have to wait and see what happens when we get to that race, because it'll be exciting. I think, again, politically it split a lot of people because not the normal people will be able to go to that race. But just to see something different, I think on the calendar is always quite welcomed. So, we've definitely got that to look forward to. So moving on to the next topic, Davide, we've talked about McLaren and, their team principal that likes to change their contracts and phone number quite often, Alex Palou. So for those who don't know, McLaren not only have the F1 team, they have an IndyCar team as well. That IndyCar team consists of 3 drivers, being Pato Ward, Felix Rosenqvist, and F1 Blag's favorite driver as well. Well, not Valentino Rossi because he's Italy's national treasure, but instead, Alexander. Yeah, of course. But we'll talk about him a bit later actually, because Vale's progress in GT racing has been quite cool to see as well. But yeah, just on a short one here, Davide. What do you make of this drama between, again, McLaren? Last year it was Piastri. Now they've upset Chip Ganassi, which is the team that have a contract with Alex Palou. And essentially, Zach wants to promise Alex a reserve driver 3rd row. But having said that, Alex Palou is winning the IndyCar championship by over 100 points. He's got a good kind of relationship with the team principal, Chip Ganassi, which has an IMSA program as well with the Cadillac prototype. Could you see Alex potentially forcing the issue, somehow managing to leverage a move into F1? And also, is McLaren and more so Zach Brown wrong kind of for his approach, when it comes to drivers and teams and, trying to persuade people to come over to the orange side?
Well, it's difficult because I'm pretty sure no one really knows what's behind the scene. Because to be honest, in his position, I would stay where I am. It doesn't matter if the other one is McLaren or if he's promising me a Formula One seat, because you are in a very good position at the moment. So changing for a kind of a new team that is not an American team, so has no experience with the IndyCar, I wouldn't do that straight away. So I don't know exactly what's behind the scene and why this show and drama is coming out. But I can see some consistency in the way McLaren speak with drivers sometimes. So yeah, maybe there is a wrong, attitude, a wrong way to approach drivers, and maybe promising stuff, then maybe changing stuff in the meanwhile. You are in a very good position. It's not exactly like Piastri, because Piastri was coming into Formula One.
Yeah.
So basically everything is fine when you are there. Since you have a seat, it's fine, you're happy. And having a seat with McLaren is still an historic team in a good position now, so fair enough.
Absolutely.
This condition, I would say, IndyCar is a very peculiar championship. And if you are with a very experienced team like Chip Ganassi, with a good relationship with the team owner and everything, you shouldn't move from there. It doesn't matter what they offer you. So I don't know if they actually promise something more than IndyCar. And that may be the start of everything. But they need to, you can't just promise them. Because you get a driver, then you do IndyCar, you maybe win IndyCar. And then if you don't maintain what you actually promise, you have a problem, because you're actually going away from a very good team there.
True.
So I don't know more than that. It sounds a bit weird to me.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think in a way, almost I can draw parallels with how McLaren attracted Daniel Ricciardo, when they offered him more money. Daniel Ricciardo got the seat, to be fair. So, I mean, there was that in his case. But then when it came to, him getting the support of, like, the engineers and, like, maybe the people in the factory to help build a car around his unique driving style, it wasn't there. And whilst I could see Alex Palou maybe being a more versatile driver, I agree with you in the sense that, making a jump from IndyCar to McLaren, just as a third driver, has no guarantee. And even if he was to get the seat there as well, somehow, let's say, Mercedes make a big move and get kind of like, Lando Norris or like, well, let's say Helmut Marko has a huge argument with Sergio Perez, and he says, you know what, I'm done. Yeah. I need Lando. And then they make that move potentially. But I agree with you. I think it's just too high risk, high reward. And it wouldn't make sense if in the end of the day, which is more likely thing, Alex Palou ends up driving for the McLaren IndyCar team. And, he upsets kind of Chip, which he has a good relationship with already, winning championship, winning team, dominantly kind of like got both hands on the championship. I agree with you. It's one that doesn't really make too much sense as well.
And also don't forget about Ricciardo was like, he needed a McLaren needs a experienced driver, so it was a different situation, I think, as well.
For sure. And Black saying, a question for Davide. Palou was in GP3 and F3 and didn't set the world on fire. Is it still possible that he's good enough for F1?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question. I mean, if I have an answer for this, I will bet on it and become a millionaire. So probably no. But you don't know. But still, IndyCar is a very, very difficult championship. So it's about flexibility. When you move to Formula One, it's much more complicated car. They've got a bit more aerodynamics, especially now with these regulations. So it's 50-50. You need to give him time on the car. So testing, the seat time, and then you actually see if he's performing in between all the others with a decent car as well. Because you see all the time, also in Formula One, with drivers that they're actually good, like Leclerc or Hamilton. If you don't get the car, maybe you're not last, but you're not competing.
Yeah.
So difficult, very difficult to answer properly.
Yeah, well, you gave a fair analysis, and I would agree with you on that too. Like, it could go either one way, and even like, Nick De Vries, for example, he had that amazing drive in Monza last year, you know, and he sold everybody an amazing dream that he was going to be this world beater for the future. And then when he got that AlphaTauri kind of seat, people were already looking into the distance, thinking that he would join Max maybe in a year or two when Sergio's deal runs out. And then,
now he's out and he's not doing motorsport.
Well, that's the thing. That's very kind of like tight now, because especially halfway into a season or a year as well, teams already have their driver, they already have their lineup, they have everything kind of solidified. To find another series to do now would be even more difficult. So, like you mentioned, it can be quite tricky. So,
and he actually set the world on fire last year, because it was an amazing race, that one. So it is difficult. The stress, the environment in Formula One is not anymore relaxed.
No, this is the thing. This is the thing, you need to get into the water swimming or else you drown. So, this is the
Quickly.
thing.
Because
It's
there's
exactly.
plenty of people that will replace you like this.
Of course. Of course. They don't wait. This is the thing, they don't wait at all. So there's that. But then, kind of on another interesting topic as well. Forza Ferrari, Forza. Just, man. I mean, not so much the F1 team. We don't give them too much credit on this podcast. But, in terms of actually this Ferrari with the GT3, this new beautiful, stunning 296. Oh, my God. It's voluptuously gorgeous. And then the hypercar, which all of us are waiting for model cars to come out, and I'll finally have Giovinazzi in my set as well. Just Davide, from kind of the Italian motorsporting kind of like perspective. What's your thoughts been, on this new 296? Seems very competitive. The BOP hasn't really killed it in its first year, which is strange because, like with the McLaren Evo or even with like the new Porsche 992, we've seen a lot of teams struggle kind of with a new car to make it as competitive. And then also Ferrari, if you're talking about strategy and winning one of the most taxing strategic races of all times, Le Mans 24 hours, and to take on Toyota, which, for them, that's all they do, just literally Le Mans. What did you think of this performance from Giovinazzi, Pierre Guidi, and James Collado as well, and just the highs and lows, because at times they didn't seem like the fastest car. Also, I think they had some issue with restarting the car with the hybrid system, and I almost was like, oh my God, the Toyota's going to catch them. And then, they were saying, recycle the engine. And then they finally managed to get the car to fire up for the final time and to win. So much.
Well, let's start with the GT3. It's quicker. I have the opportunity to see it actually closer in a test. I think it was April in Pro Ricard. They were testing the GT3, the new GT3 for GT World Challenge, just in the box beside us. So it was there. It looks, at the moment, is one of the most beautiful GT3 car they ever built. I think it looks like a prototype underneath. Then is a GT3 outside. They try to have some details from the F40, like the back grid on the panel lights at the end. So it looks very good. It looks very aggressive. In terms of the BOP, as you said, they weren't killed as the new BMW, if you think about it.
True.
So there are the two new cars, both with a very good BOP. It's almost saying you need one of the two cars to win this year. Marketing, maybe they need to wait to sell the car. I don't know. So if you have a good BOP, you sell more cars. I don't know. But, I know everybody knows BOP is not always fair. It shouldn't be like that because it was born to have everybody on the same level, technically at least. Is never like that. So it doesn't matter. This time it's Ferrari, next time will be Mercedes, another time will be McLaren. So at the end of the story, is leveling up in the years, more than in the same season. But the car is good. I think even with a bit less BOP, they would win this year. It's a very nice car. I would like to work with it, to be honest. So any team that wants
any team listening. Man.
And they have the experience as well. So the car has been developed as usual with all the other GT3. They never really did a bad car, if you think about in the last few years. Maybe not the best, maybe with some issues. But it's Ferrari, so you buy Italian, But the car is actually good, very good. For the hypercar, well, I don't know because I didn't work with them, so it's just my opinion. But I think they build the car for Le Mans. Because if you see all the other races in WEC, they are not bad, but they are not with the performance, the amazing performance they had in Le Mans. And it's fair enough because they needed to come back after a long time and win Le Mans. So again, it's fair enough. Car is behaving good, is very nice to see. And about the drivers, what we were talking about, we have two WEC GT Pro World Champion in the car, and Giovinazzi is actually a ex-Formula 1 driver.
True.
Which is not the same, because it's a completely different story. Le Mans is much more difficult as a race than any Formula 1 race. But I mean, in terms of driver, you can't really expect less than that. If they perform less than that, they are not doing their job.
True.
At that point. For the fact they had issue with the cycling the engine and everything. I mean, have you ever tried to do a 24-hour in that condition of this year?
Oh gosh, that was something else the other day with the rain and just it was a crazy
All the
race.
aquaplaning people in GT, especially people that were crashing and they're recovering one lap and finish on the podium. I mean, it was one of the best Le Mans of the last few years. I think it was very difficult, with a lot of variables, very competitive. And I think Ferrari just nailed it. But when they had the problem, is still an hypercar with an electrical system for the hybrid part. Everybody knows how much the reliability could be a problem in a long-term race like that.
Sure.
So I don't see really a big issue. They maybe got lucky with cycling the engine, saying the system was the solution. It could have been much worse than for them and repair the car. But that's part of the game. As I always, you need to have the full package. So drivers, bit of luck, car, team, everything. And I, of course, I mean, how many years they are doing endurance racing? Since forever, so they've got experience. And
True.
Ferrari made the right decision to assign, of course, the hypercar program, I think.
Absolutely. Well, they've got the operation running smoothly there, Davide, and it was nice. Just I felt so happy. Like my dad is a huge Japanese car supporter, so he was Team Toyota, and I was here no, there's no Mercedes really. I don't know what Mercedes are gonna do. We've got a GT3 segment coming in a bit, but I was like, I'll just go with the popular choice. And then when I could see the support for Ferrari, I was like, you know what? It's not the F1 team. For once, I can actually be a bit more.
Not even close.
I can be a bit more confident. So,
to be honest, with the amazing strategy they are delivering in Formula One, I would be very worried if they went whack straight away. Because it's all about strategy there. So, let's be honest. Could be a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, nothing against your father, for sure. But Toyota wins when no one is competing.
No competition. True.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Car, they're a good company, a very big and experienced company, but every time they got an actual competitor, they're struggling.
True.
So they should change something, I think.
Yeah, well, I think the pressure's going to be on now. I think now Toyota got to kick up the bum, which they were expecting. And actually, I'll link the topic in because on the topic of LMDHs and stuff like that. Davide, it's been a really amazing revival of a category because I remember last year we were only dreaming, and talking about this new hypercar class. And at the time we only really had, I think, announced was the Ferrari, the Porsche 963, obviously the Peugeot 9X8, which again, very interesting car. That's
nice,
all I'll say. Yeah, very interesting car with its lack of wing and ground effects. But but it's growing. Even on the IMSA side, you've got Acura, you've got a Cadillac, which is also doing the work as well. We've got a new Lamborghini, the new Lamborghini car with the Iron Lynx team. That car.
That would be interesting next year to see what they do because they got experience. Is actually a good team. The car looks good.
Amazing.
We don't know what they did in Imola because they're testing, so they know better than us. But they didn't have a technical issue, at least not apparent. So, and they've got basically half of a year, maybe a year to prepare for one of the longest WEC championship of all the time. Next year will be 8 races, which is. Wow. I know it's not the 24 races of Formula One, but trust me, 8 races in WEC,
it's taxing. I can imagine, especially as well. With it being an endurance series too, and a lot of traveling across the continent, that's gonna be a huge party.
Love to come back there, especially next year. There is Brazil. I always wanted to go to São Paulo, and now they do. São Paulo, so really interesting stuff. But yeah, you're traveling. You do Japan, you do Europe, you do America, you do Bahrain, you do Qatar, you do São Paulo. It's long.
But again, it's a really interesting series, David. And for me, one I'm looking to hopefully maybe not all of them because I think it would be too much. My employer would kill me, my boss. But I would love to at least go to 2 races, and just kind of see the cars live in person, and just to get that feeling as well of an endurance race because there's nothing
Go
quite
Le Mans. Go Le Mans. There is nothing like Le Mans. If you go see it, It's a big party. Everything is around there. The paddock is very big. There is a lot of history, a lot of experience, a lot of fun. They go every year, and you see always the same faces. Sometimes it's the event. You don't sleep. You don't need an hotel, so you save money for that.
True, just camping out, enjoying the festival.
There, it's very good. If you
Man,
never see a work race, that's the one to go first.
We'll have to add it to the travel list. 100% need to add it to the travel list. It'll be amazing to see. And actually, whilst on the topic of new cars, iRacing also just announced that there's 2 GTP cars coming as well. So we think it's the 963, potentially the Acura, since it's one of the other cars from the IMSA side of the prototype world.
But
it's generally
American as well. So for iRacing is probable.
Exactly.
And Porsche, everybody knows there is a partnership between Porsche and iRacing. So probably.
Exactly, true. We can only hope, Davide. But I mean, let's get into this then, because the world of sim racing, I think, has been an interesting one over the last couple of months as well. At the beginning of the year, we highly anticipated the virtual Le Mans. Again, I think as an event and as somebody who's into sim racing, it's super cool to kind of see this, the amount of practice, the amount of testing, just even for a virtual event that goes into it. So that was the positive. But then with the virtual Le Mans, well, one Dutch world champion had a lot to say when things didn't go so well for him, in terms of getting disconnected and him feeling that he wasn't treated fairly. That's a completely different conversation. But yeah, there seems to be a lot of competition there, Davide, because what is the format for virtual Le Mans next season? Is it been announced? I also think that there's a Le Mans Ultimate video game or simulator that's going to be coming to the market at the end of the year as well. Is there any kind of update we know so far with the virtual Le Mans series before we talk about the other sims?
No, really? Not really. I mean, I can speak with myself. I'll probably do it with Williams, like last year, the full championship, but no more than that.
Okay, fair enough. And also, just generally as well, Davide, I mean, what do you just think of the sim racing space generally? I mean, you got the likes of iRacing, which they're the more prestigious one. They're the one that's the most expensive. On top of that, they get all these nice license deals with the manufacturers to put the Porsche, to put maybe a Acura. They added the Cadillac recently as well. But then they haven't had rain in a simulator, which to me is nuts. I know when it comes to physics, there's probably a lot of stuff that goes into the drainage system, the kind of ideal line as well, the tire model and stuff like this.
Yeah, the wet tires as well. Yeah, I mean, and tires in a race are not great. Never been, never will be, probably. So the model of the tire in racing is peculiar. They are behaving weirdly in a lot of championships, in a lot of races. Then you go in another place and everything is perfect. So it's not how our tire works for real. So as I said at the beginning of this live stream, it is about understanding how the system works. The system could be the car or could be the simulator. So in this case, the simulator, if the tires behave in a certain way, you need to find a way to sort it out. Like all the polemic about going on the grass to cool down the tires.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, it's about this. It works. Regulation doesn't say you can do that. So fair enough. Then it's not sportive. Yes, true. But everybody complained when they didn't do it. So with rain, I think there will be some gap, some bug, some point where you can use the tire as maybe a dry one or similar. And as soon as you spot the difference or whatever it will be, you have an advantage.
True.
So I think it's not different. I think iRacing, in my opinion, is not ready to go that complicated. Because there are a lot of stuff in the basics of the simulator. There's always been not ideal and they do nothing about it. So if I was them, especially because a lot of people, especially at high level, like big team, like Redline, Williams, or any other good team, are complaining about those stuff sometimes. They should first fix what they already got and then update the system for rain or for whatever they want. Because I see a lot of problems initially, especially in terms of even low level. I mean, you're doing iRacing, you're new to the system, it's not an intuitive simulator to drive. It takes a while. They got the best probably in terms of licensing and all the competition you can get all the time, every night, every hour of the day, every hour of the night. There's always someone in a server ready to go, ready to fight, ready to have a race. But sometimes you find drivers, they are dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You really want them to go rain.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
So I don't know. I see the reason why they go rain, because other simulators has got them. So it's still kind of a competition between different brand of softwares. But I don't see this the moment, considering all the other issue they've got already to go with a wet condition.
I think that's a fair point to make as well. And you're right, Davide, for a simulator like iRacing, should I say, it's the oldest one. It's almost 12 years old. So for them, there's still, considering they've had a long time to fix a lot of those stuff, it's still one of those things where you'd want them to iron out the creases first before focusing on things like this, which they haven't prioritized before. Like you mentioned, I guess competition is the reason why they're trying to keep up with other sims, and kind of segue onto another new simulator coming onto the market, which has really got like the esports world in a headlock, is Rensport. I've been offered kind of like a beta code just to do some testing kind of offline with the physics engine and stuff like that. But from your perspective, could Rensport potentially be a very, successful platform? It's still early days, as we mentioned with the beta, but you've got, I think, is it the ERL or ER1 kind of esports division, like testing it. You got Team Redline and Williams and all of the other teams getting involved. Big money. Just like when people look at sim racing and they say, it's just like a game, just people fail to see that sometimes it's $1 million like prize.
Yeah,
between...
it's a million goals game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a game, and it's a complicated one, let's say, because you can't just plug and play. You need to have all the tools, all the experience, know what to do, and spend a lot of money, not just for the system itself, but just because, I mean, you need the steering wheel, the motor, the rig, very expensive TVs or monitor screen. So it's a lot of money, especially if you want to do it in a certain way. In terms of the new simulator, I mean, it's a long time the simulator the system work. After COVID, we was this big boom between also people that never driven before and never had a passion for it, which is maybe an issue for the reason I was saying before. You have a lot of time, there's no clue, and they drive just as non-amateur, even worse. And in a certain level of simulator, they shouldn't really allow that. But money is everything, so you can't really close and quit people on the base they have not experience. They've got the license as well for the reason, in a certain way.
True.
I think every simulator has got a lot to do so far, so I don't see why Rensport shouldn't be any different. They will be probably very good in something, very bad in other stuff, as any other one. I mean, Factory has been around for a long time as well. And in 2020, when they did the first virtual Le Mans, and during COVID, with some amazing amount of entries, they weren't ready and the server crashed. If you remember, so
yeah,
which is odd. Everybody was home with a simulator almost, and it's the virtual Le Mans, the official one. We're streaming for the first time. What do you expect? So it should be something that a software company should manage much better. So they will probably do some mistake like that, and it's just normality today. But they will have also, as you said, a lot of money to develop stuff with good teams. They are contributing with the beta test and everything. So they will be for sure good in certain ways. We will see, for sure.
Yeah, I think time will tell on it. And like you mentioned as well, Davide, like that's the thing, like there's still a long way to go in sim racing in terms of, kind of pushing it as a product, and also kind of, I guess, kind of merging the real world kind of with the simulated world as such. But like you mentioned as well, like it's good to see the communities like continuing to grow. You know, like the technology as well in terms of like the simulator. Of course, if you want to be fighting, you know, the Yana Opmirs or you know the Daniel Lafuentes and these guys, you know, like you need like the proper big boy equipment. But you know, even just like the direct drive you know, technology is becoming a bit more affordable to the normal consumers like myself.
Fanatec did the new, I mean, new, it's not new anymore, it's been a while now, but it's a very cheap with direct driver. It's
CSL DD.
It's not the DD2 for sure, but
it's still something.
From one that's come from a G29,
29.
It's a big step away. I mean, so
that's the thing,
and it's coming there slowly.
And this is good. This is good, you know, because it's for me. Just I've been fortunate with the career I have to, you know, invest the money into it. But for a lot of the friends I have, it's like, I'd love to get into it, then, but it's too much. And I say, nah, you know, there is a way. Obviously, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out in a sense. But there's nothing to stop you from having fun, at least, you know, uploading a circuit and, you know, just getting that experience. And, you know, it's
just
cool.
running around at the beginning as well with a
exactly
29, which is cheap. Let's be honest.
True.
And it's not, I mean, I know it's different. It doesn't look as a sport to many. But if you play golf, you spend a lot of money. If you play tennis, you spend a lot of money. And how many of those become professional at the end?
True.
It's not really different if you think about it. It's just your house, but you spend an amount of money for something you want to do because you like it first.
True.
It's exactly the same. So
that's the thing. But you know, it's a good progression, and I think you know, sim racing compared to like where it's been in the last couple of years, it's exciting to see the competition, but also to see the options and also just the platform continue to grow. So that's always a good thing, you know, and to kind of change it up a bit as well. Like you know, the biggest kind of piece of this conversation, Davide, you know, this is the GT3 scene. You know, obviously you are literally there, like. I envy you, man, because you're just there, like in the paddock with the drivers, with the cars. Oh man, you're there on race day. Just you know, just your comments is on the GT3 scene generally, because you know, you're doing the British GT this season, which is interesting. You're doing it with a completely new, upgraded McLaren, and you guys have had the ups and downs. So it'll be interesting to hear about that. On top of that, on the flip side, you're also doing the full GT World Challenge series, which is like, you know, the one with the Aston Martin and the Bullet Racing team, very famous team as well, which is interesting to see. And in the Silver Cup, it's very competitive and loads of different privateer teams as well. And just generally as well, I mean, you know, we've seen the regular performances from the likes of Raffaello Marcello doing magic with the AMG as he always does. But then also, you know, there have been other new cars. You mentioned the 296. On top of that as well, actually the Audi program coming to an end at the end of this year. Also, we have the GT3s now becoming kind of part of the World Endurance Championship, I think, next year, which will be huge. Kind of what will happen, you know, with the likes of Mercedes? Do you see them going into it as like a full-time thing? There's a lot to unpack here, Davide, man. So, you know, I'd be interested just to give it to you and then we'll bounce off of each other on it.
Yeah, I'll leave the WEC at the end because that's tricky because the regulations are there. I don't know if you read it about. You have entries, they need to assign entries to manufacturing. It's a bit of a mess even to work on it because everybody's waiting to understand who will be the team, basically. Because we don't know. Even working yet is a matter between ACU and manufacturer at the moment. So they confirmed, I think, just 4 entries at the moment for GT3. They are signed.
Okay.
So let's keep that at the end because it's difficult. Sure. For the rest, I think GT3 is the moment to be, you know, because it's the car that will be, it has always been a kind of important car since the class has been built like it is now. They are very fast. That's why BOP is cutting down a lot. You can't imagine how much BOP is cutting down a lot. These GT3, especially the newest one, are very fast. Maybe too fast, if I want to say it. They're getting more complicated, but that's just a natural development. You know, GT is going away, so GT3 will be the main class, the top class of GT cars. So, of course, they can't stay as they are. I'm expecting to have differences between a GT World Challenge or Asia Le Mans, ELMS, Michelin Le Mans Cup, and WEC. Because, I mean, Michelin Le Mans Cup used to be, for example, on the border of ELMS. But ELMS has got GTE now, and next year there will be GT3 exactly as Michelin Le Mans Cup. So how you can just differentiate it that. So I'm expecting kind of package or a better BOP, more engine, more aero, a kind of a small GT series. Same for WEC. Maybe an intervention of ABS, which is different or maybe less than a normal GT3. Because otherwise, what's the point? You see in the calendar, all the provisional calendar that are being released, GT World Challenge for the first time never clash with WEC. Because they want to allow team to have the possibility to do both. Just, common sense around, which is a mess of a calendar, especially if you do everything, because you basically go away every time, every weekend. But that's another story. But it's great for the sport, it's great for the GT3 as well. In terms of the car, as I said, they are getting complicated. The new ones are basically prototyped with a GT shape, which is great engineering-wise, because GT cars used to be simple. So there was more on the driver than on the car sometimes. You maybe have half a second or a second from the car, but you can't recover 5 seconds on the car. If you have 5 seconds lower, are two things. So you have a problem, or the driver is not doing his job.
True.
So you need to coach the driver mainly and see and be sure that the reliability of the car is okay and everything. Now it's not working like that anymore. The Evo kit is the example. If you don't make it right, you are literally nowhere. There is a way to make it right. I'm not going to tell you, but there is a way to make it right. It took a lot of time to actually understand it and start to use it. We're still not there completely. It's a tricky one. Sometimes even manufacturer doesn't understand what they built. They expect something and then they actually give the car into the customer hands. You raise the car and you see, okay, look, this is not working as you said. It happens. It's not because they are incompetent on something. It's because they built a car, they test it in a certain way, and then you go racing it. It's completely different. You put a pro driver in the car. They maybe test once with the same driver. You have a full season with different shit, with different conditions, different tires. Sometimes you can go Hankook, you can go Michelin, you can go Pirelli, you can go Goodyear. It's different. Trust me. If you pass from a Michelin to a Pirelli, it's another car completely.
Oh gosh.
So there are a lot of variables you can't simply test. Maybe you can test differently because all the McLaren struggled at the beginning. So I don't think personally the car was ready to go with the Evo kit. And the team needs to test something that the McLaren manufacturer should have done previously. They didn't. It's common when you work with manufacturer, you don't get everything you want as they should.
Sure.
But that's motorsport. Is McLaren now, could be BMW, could be Ferrari, could be Mercedes. Well, Mercedes is actually a good one, but is also much bigger than McLaren. If you think about. So it's about customer service and stuff like that. There are a better team, a bit less better team. But everybody is doing his job or try to do his job at the best of the possibility. Because at the end of the story, even if McLaren didn't give maybe the support they should at the beginning with this new Evo kit and no one understood nothing at the beginning. They didn't do on purpose because they tried to sell a product at the end. If the product is bad, they are not selling it.
True.
So, it's not because I don't want to do anything, it's your problem, that's the car, enjoy it. It's not working like that.
True.
So it's always in the middle. I think they should have provided more support. Sometimes they act like they don't know, but they didn't test as they should a big upgrade like that because they changed all the uprights in the suspension. They changed the aero. The floor is completely different than before. The front bumper is different than before. It works in very, very in a working range, which is this big. As soon as you have something that is not completely right, you lose performance at the front end. So it's tricky. It's a tricky car. And it's not common because McLaren used to be a very easy GT3 to run.
Yeah. Well, so, Davide, I was actually going to ask you, so with the aero kit, I know obviously you now have the 2023 specification for the 720S, but is it possible for the team to modify the 720 to use the older specification or would
No,
McLaren
it
just?
depends from the championship regulations.
Oh, okay.
Some years ago, DTM has got some area of the aisle you could touch on the GT3 because it was a GT3, but for DTM, so they should have been different. I think they closed up that because at the end of the story, GT3 world is still an amateur driver world at the moment. So you rely on money that drivers spend to race. You don't have the budget that you can have in hypercar or stuff like that. There is pro everybody and everybody's developing stuff. So the most of the championships try to standardize parts.
Okay.
And the FIA regulation, as you said, also GT World Challenge use FIA technical regulation, technical standards, is because you try to test the car. We approve this, you need to use it. Okay. Then, of course, you can play with it by that setup work. You can have a different height on the floor, compare with the ride height, stuff like that. There are cars when you can modify the floor without changing the ride height. There are other cars you need to change the ride height to change the floor because it's solid. It depends. It depends. The common line you see, if you go for a newer car and GT3, they are becoming much more complicated to run than before. Aston Martin at the moment, I mean, I know Aston Martin maybe too much at the moment, so that's also an help, but I found them very, very easy compared with other GT3 at the moment. So that's GT3 scene. The new cars, BMW, Ferrari, as I said, are looking good, they're fast, they're winning everything. Let's see if the BOP changes the next few years. If they perform, if the Audi shut down the program, I mean, it's Volkswagen Group, Lamborghini is going better. Aerolinks just signed a big contract with the Lamborghini team to have the hypercar, but they will run, and they actually are running the GT3 Lamborghini already. Apart from GTE, which got a Porsche, but it will be only this year. For the rest, will be a full Lamborghini program next year. So you don't want really to have two motorsport programs at that level with the same car in a certain sense. So you need to choose Lamborghini is a newer car. You have the hypercar, you go for it. That's fair.
Okay. No, but it's interesting, Davide. You know, like actually, it's funny you should mention that because I've got like a little model kind of in the corner with my
That's the one with actually paint livery. The one that uses Nürburgring. I think that's
but it's pretty cool because, like, you know, with these cars, like they have the different kits, like you mentioned as well, and on top of that, like it's interesting because I think I was listening to a podcast with Lawrence Vantor and Dries Vantor, the brothers. One's like a Porsche driver from Manti, one is with WRT, and Lawrence was saying to Dries that at the Spa 24. Part of the diffuser broke. I think the rear diffuser, Kevin Estra, went over a curb and damaged it. And as you were saying, like the manufacturer designed the diffuser to do a particular job and to provide a particular performance. But then Lawrence Vantor was saying that the 992 Porsche GT3 was driving even faster without the diffuser on it, which is not how it's designed.
It's not something you can actually anticipate. And the Porsche is actually a good car. It's always been a good car in GT racing, at least. So, yeah, it's motorsport. At the end of the story, you don't have the possibility to simulate that much as in Formula One. You don't have the possibility to test that much because it depends from the driver you've got. There are billionaires that do a test per week if the championship allows it. Because WEC, for example, you can't.
True.
So.
But that's positive as well, Davide, because, you know, like in this day and age, we talk about like, you know, like not cost cap because that's a whole Formula One thing, but trying to encourage manufacturers into sports by making the entry and the sustainability of a season affordable. You know, not only just for them to manufacture, but also for privateer teams to be able to buy a car and then to run that for an entire season too. And also kind of like on that topic as well, Davide, like, well, I say it's sad news. It depends if you're on the Formula One side or at least, you know, the GT3 side. But it's kind of sad that a lot of GT3 drivers from the Audi program and family, unfortunately, they're not gonna have like a role, I guess, in the sports car scene because after so many years, Audi's pulled out of literally. Well, I think I don't know if they're in Formula E. They cut their ties with the prototype thing a while ago as well with the World Endurance Championship. Now, no GT3 teams either. What kind of happens
not
with
even
like
GT4? To be honest, because they shut down
GT,
everything.
Oh,
so
wow.
You can have the car. I think they said that you can have the support from the factory for a couple of years, but they're not selling cars. So if you're a team, they want to have success, you have Audi at the moment you think about it. Because I can keep the car for next year, but what's the point?
What's the
At a certain
point?
point, I will change it because I don't get parts.
True.
I broke something, I don't get parts.
Plus,
So exactly as Bentley. Bentley shut down the program and they gave support for a couple of years after. But a lot of teams like K-Pax, big teams, they just changed. Barwell Motorsport, they all were Bentleys, and now they got Lamborghini.
Yeah.
So
that's huge. And then, a team that also did something similar was like WRT. They had like a lot of Audis they were running in previous years. And it kind of segues onto another question I wanted to ask about Vale. Like Vale came into WRT with this Audi, which again, I can imagine being quite a bit more tricky, because it's a rear engined car. It's quite pointy, and maybe not. I mean, I love Vale, and as a racer, I'm sure whether it's in 2 wheels or 4 wheels, you'd be able to adapt. But maybe, for like a gentleman driver, not the easiest balancer car to drive. But then, he's in the BMW now with the M4, and he seems like a completely different driver. I think he's actually won one of the races as well with his teammate.
One of the sprint races, yes.
Sprint races,
No, not in Brands. I think it was Misano.
Is it Misano? Yeah, it was Misano. Which would have been a huge thing, I imagine. But, what's your kind of like review of him as well, Davide? Because again, like a fellow Italian, like when you see a legend of any sport trying something, you're always excited, but you don't want them to embarrass themselves. And to be fair, he's really actually adapted, and he seems to be doing quite a good job with the BMW. What do you think are like the benefits of the BMW that suit maybe his ability to drive in that series? And what's your take been on him just generally?
Yeah, okay. Let's say I was basically growing up with him, so it could be not objective at all. Apart from that, being in the same paddock, you see the difference. I mean, when we were in Monza this year, for example, he's a kind of personality. He's like a living legend, everybody knows. So we're in Monza. I was arriving at the track at 7 a.m. in the morning, start the prep and everything. And you were seeing in front of the WRT box, they put like an area for the fan. They were the only team having a proper area for the fan, for obvious reasons. And they were seeing people there standing and waiting since I don't know what time. For no reason, to be honest, because if you really expect that Valentino Rossi will be there at 6 a.m. in the morning, well, that was ridiculous. And every time he went out, it was with his daughter, it was with his wife, or whatever it is. People would just maybe do 2 pictures, a couple of autographs, and then go away because you can't spend the whole day. You're still racing there, okay? And people was asking like, why you just do 2? I mean, what do you expect him to do? It's just a bit crazy. And then it was Monza as well, so a lot of Italians, which is not helpful probably in that sense. But that's the kind of environment. I mean, you got 72 cars in the grid of Spa 24 this year. For what? Because SRO is great, or because everybody wants to race in the same championship of Valentino? And the number of entries SRO got this year, last year with Vale, has been crazy. Amazingly dramatic compared with before. I know a couple of person that works with WRT, was like team coordinator, was working last year with me with the F Sport. Now she's working in WRT, and she's managing the Valentino stuff. She told me stuff is surreal, really surreal. It's different, okay? And I get why. Because it's not just about the result, about the racing, it's about the people. And it's been a revelation at the MotoGP time with all the scenes he was doing at the end of the victories and stuff. He's always been different, and he's one of the most humble person I ever met, to be honest. Because you can expect a 9 world championship MotoGP, a living legend, to be, I don't care, I do whatever I want. But he's actually going to the paddock. You met him a lot of time, especially if you work there. He's doing at the driving briefing. He's always in the first row. So he really looks, he wants to improve, get better. It's a silver driver, which is ridiculous if you think about him, but in motorcar racing, he never actually won anything. So it's a silver driver, is an exception. You see regulation SRO GT World Challenge say you need to have the number plate standardized with the sponsor and the number in a specific font. He's got his 46. And no one is saying nothing about it.
True.
Okay, so it's another story, it's another level in that sense. I think he could have been good also with the Audi, to be honest, because it's the way it works.
Yeah.
He listens to people, try to improve. He's got his pro in the car that is coaching him. It's not easy for him to coach Valentino Rossi, for sure, for obvious reason. But it's not even easy for him to understand that that's actually a faster driver in the car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tricky, but he's listening, he's improving. So I think BMW is a better car at the moment because it's newer. It's got a good BOP. WRT is one of the best in Europe. So it's got the team. But I don't really see why Audi would be any different at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's reassuring to hear, and it's just awesome, because like even like I mentioned my dad earlier, again, huge MotoGP head. Valet was just dad's favorite. Like, if it wasn't Schumacher, it was Valet, and just
exactly.
to see him still around, just like doing the amazing stuff, still being competitive, still learning as well, and having that passion just for motor racing is super cool, and it's interesting because you mentioned obviously with this BMW program that they're running now with the new M4, it's a newer car, of course. It's got like newer technology in terms of the traction control, the ABS, and so forth. I feel like the M4 as well, even when you just look at the road car, you can tell it's a very purpose.
Really
good.
I mean,
very
just also just you see him and just okay, yeah, nice.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. You look at it and you're like, wow, that car is a monster. You even just like the road car, it looks very purpose like built. So it's amazing just to see.
Is why there is
the arches and then the wing and the huge grill.
Even better.
Oh, but for sure. No, it's amazing. And then on top of that as well, with you're talking about liveries as well and iconic kind of things like the Mamba livery. But Davide, honest question, Rexy, what have you made of like the dinosaur liveried Porsche 992? Like it's an interesting one. I'm still trying to see when I can collect that one. For sure. Yeah. For sure. But yeah, like it's super cool, and that's the thing I like with GT3 racing. Like obviously Formula One has its market, it has its rich people that can afford like a 296, stuff like that. But with at least Mercedes and Porsche and Audi and BMW and just the group with the GT3s, it feels at least a bit more relevant because those cars almost have like descendants, which they'll have like I think even a new AMG GT's been announced. I mean, so that's gonna be interesting. And also, even with the AMG, do you think there'll be a new body kit for that? Do you think they will facelift it to be? Oh, okay.
Probably. I mean, it's coming to WEC, so they need to do something, and you will see a lot of new cars in the upcoming. Also, Aston Martin never announced properly a new car, but I think if they want to stay in GT3 world, they need to deliver because. To be honest, GTE Aston is much better car than GT3. Mm-hmm. So they need, and it's going away. It's not there anymore. So next year it will be the same car we know Evo Kit, which is not one of the best GT3 cars. It's a fast car, it's a reliable car, but it's not as good as the GTE. Mm-hmm. So I think if they want to stay, they need to do a new car at a certain point.
Absolutely, whether it's like an Evo version of the Vantage or it's a completely new model. But as well, one question I want to ask as well, Davide, with the Aston Martin GT3, does it use an AMG engine but not the naturally aspirated one in the AMG? Is it like an AMG engine but turbocharged?
Kind of.
Okay.
But it's motorsport parts, so yes and no. At the same time, okay. I mean, the engine is great. It's one of the best engines you can have in any Aston. Is actually engine is never a problem normally. If you have a problem with the engine, you have a BOP problem or a technical problem. Mm-hmm. It's a fast car in straight line speed. You saw it in Monza. You saw it in Spa. I mean, you saw it in Paul Ricard this year. Paul Ricard this year we were having the purple sector in the second sector, which is actually a straight.
Straight,
purple,
yeah.
For everybody. With silver cup, we were purple on everybody. So, okay, it's a good engine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's incredible. Like, well, it's interesting, and that's the thing that we try and encourage our listeners to check out as well. Because, Formula One's great. It has its place. IndyCar's great. It has its place. But for me, and actually, one thing I wanted to say is that I'll be going to my first motorsport race in September. I'm going to be at the Brands Hatch race. So I'm looking forward to it. I've never ever actually been to a real life motor race.
Come
So
and see me.
that's, man, I have to now. I have to. We'll have to set something up, Davide. But I'm excited. I'm really excited, for myself, but also very excited for you because you've made that step. I remember last year when we were speaking, you're doing a lot of the GTE stuff, and you were saying you really wanted to kind of work with the GT3 team throughout an entire championship, whether it's the British GT or the World kind of Challenge Series. And you've made that step, and it's still a learning curve, but as time goes by, I think we'll definitely see a much more closer kind of BOP and performance from all the teams, to be fair. But yeah, like, what are your goals and visions, on the pit wall and kind of for the future of a cup of racing as well?
Yeah, I mean, with the new regulation in WEC, I mean, I want to go back to the WEC in some way for sure, if possible. I want to stick with the GT World Challenge because you're allowed to do both this time, and this is the first time. So it would be nice to see if physically you can do it. But yeah, that's for sure one of the aims. Still GT cars. I mean, I like to go LMP2 maybe or stuff, but not now. Let's see in the future. It's not been an easy year for me. 2023, I had a lot of issues, new teams, the McLaren that works works. So I really want to have like a position next year when I actually can fight with experience and still learning, because you never stop learning in this job. Better than me probably. We speak about it a lot of time, but yeah, there are a lot of projects. My main goal is coming back to that level. If I have to sacrifice lower level, I could be British GT. I'll do that because you can't do everything. But yeah, that's goal number one. Then that's not the only project I've got. There is another interesting project, but it's TBC, so I can't tell you anything about because it may not happen at the moment. So I don't know.
Well, we'll wait for the announcement, and I think again, Davide, like it's amazing, and I could sense that like competition and that competitiveness in you, because maybe it hasn't been a year where the results have come, but having said that, you had the success, the year before. So I always feel that sometimes, even if the success doesn't come straight away, or if there's like a decline at a time, you can always bounce back from it. You can always take the understandings and learnings from the difficult moments, and it's what makes the winning moments even better, and more worthwhile, because it's the hardships and kind of the things you learn when things don't go right, and kind of the experience to make you go better the next time, which is so pivotal. So we're always excited. I'm looking forward, hopefully, to have the opportunity to meet you in person as well next month, because again, just like I've always just loved the GT3 racing. Like, for me, it's predominantly what I do in my simulator. So to actually see it in real life, and hopefully to meet you, hopefully
it's mind-blowing for you. It must be.
Oh man, I could imagine. I'm like a kid at Christmas. Like, it's like everything coming at once. But I'm really thankful because we learn so much from people like yourself, and we're so thankful to you and your time as well. So Davide, for all our listeners out there as well, and for the people that will come back and watch this later as well, where can they find you, and where can they find your great business that offers a very, very awesome service as well?
Yeah, I mean, for the business, every social media, search A Cup of Racing, search me personally is my name. You will find Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and that's it, because it's too much. I'm just managing everything by myself in that sense. So 3 social media is more than enough. And then we've got a website, this www.cupofracing.com, which has got picture, services, sim racing stuff. You can contact me, etc., etc. Not at 3 a.m. in the morning because I'm not answering, but you feel free to contact me if you need any service of that case. And for future appointment, I mean, it will be British GT until the end of the season, basically. So Brands and then in Donington, and then I'm testing, but that's private test. So you will find me in British GT mainly until end of October at least. Then it's too early.
The big news. Yeah. Well, we're here for the ride, Davide, and again, just
I hope so, because I mean, there are a lot of stuff going on, but there's nothing confirmed at all at the moment. So we'll see. It's early. It's just August.
Yeah.
There will be Asia Le Mans starting in Sepang in December. I would like to do that because Sepang is a champion, is a racetrack I've never been. So but I don't know. It's too early.
No, the world's your oyster, Davide. And again, you're such an inspirational individual to all of us, including myself, and I feel very honored to have a friend like you as well, with everything that you know and the experiences and just everything you shared with us so far as well. So, guys, make sure you go and check out Davide's pages, and we'll definitely put a link in the description below as well. And we'll be following the journeys. Listen, if you're into motorsport, if you're into GT3 racing, if you're into, your different series as well, make sure you give Davide a follow as well. And just for myself here at Stripping the Dipping, it's been your boy AMG Dens. Davide, putting the pressure on you. Any final words to your adoring fans on this channel?
I mean, it's always been nice to be here. I hope this hour and a half it's always been long.
Yeah, it goes by.
It's been for some way funny, inspirational, or just entertaining, to be honest. And maybe we'll see again. You never know. You'll probably contact me in half an hour to say when next time. So
yeah, I will. And we'll probably have to even do like a recording at the circuit at Brands Hatch as well in a couple of weeks' time too. So, Davide, we always appreciate you, man. You're a legend, and I'm so thankful, to you for your time as always. And also to our listeners and subscribers as well, guys. If you're here, if you've come so far, please make sure you slap the like button like Will Smith. You subscribe and share with all your friends and family as well. On this channel, we're always trying, to tell you the untold stories of motorsport. That is the tagline of Georgie Stripping the Dipping. And, it's always great to have a catch up with our regular guests like Davide, Superstar, and just generally just to have amazing content like this. So make sure you get in touch. Make sure you leave your comments, F1 Black saying trying to get Davide to do the outro. Yeah, you see, I always try.
Always try to do it as well.
Black always complains because he's just like, oh man, you put me on the spot. But this is what it is. It's just there's not really much of a script. It's just us just talking, and having a heart-to-heart conversation on the thing that we love most, which is motor racing. So, guys, it's been a pleasure as always. Make sure, as like I said, you go and check out Davide's website. You go and follow him on Instagram and show support from us here at Stripping the Dipping. Until next time, it's been your boy AMG Dent, and we're out. Thank you as always for your support, and we'll catch you next time on Georgie's Stripping the Dipping. See you later. Bye-bye.